Most of us know that voice inside our head, the one that doesn't shut up, the critic, the doubter, the voice that's quick to say, "You're not ready. You're not good enough. What if you fail?" And too often, we take that voice as truth. We give it the mic. We let it run the whole show. But let me throw something at you. What if that voice wasn't the full story? What if, instead of the constant critic, the loudest voice you could hear today was your future self? The one who already made it. The you who already pushed through the challenges, overcame the fears, and proved to the world and to yourself that you were capable all along. Imagine that version of you standing on the sidelines of your life right now, watching you, cheering you on. What would they say? They wouldn't be heckling, and they wouldn't be mocking you. They'd be fired up, shouting things like, "Keep going. You're closer than you think. Don't stop here. You're about to break through." And that changes everything. Because if you really think about it, your future self is already proof. Proof that you don't give up. Proof that you are capable. Proof that every ounce of doubt in your head is just noise trying to keep you from stepping into the version of yourself that already exists. See, when most people listen to their inner voice, they're stuck in survival mode. It's like dragging around an inner heckler who wants to keep you safe by keeping you small. But you've got a choice. You can tune into the higher frequency, the one broadcasting from your future, the one that's already celebrating your win before you even cross the finish line. And this episode is about rewiring the inner conversation. Because the truth is, you don't need another critic in your life. You need a coach, a hype squad, a reminder that your story is still being written and the ending is already powerful. And the best part? That coach isn't out there somewhere. It's already inside of you. So let's go there. Let's step into the energy of your future self. Let's hear what they've been trying to tell you all along. Because trust me, they're cheering so loud it's impossible to ignore. Are you ready? I am. I'm Jonah. I'm your person. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the show. I want to talk about the inner voice you can choose. Your inner voice is not a single story. It's a conversation. And most of us are only listening to one side, the side that doubts, criticizes, and keeps score. That's the survival voice. It's loud, persistent, and honestly, super exhausting. But there's another side, your future self. The one who's already navigated the storms you're facing. The one who's cheering for you in ways your current self can barely imagine. And the wildest part, that voice is already inside you. You just have to tune in. When you start treating your inner conversation like a team huddle instead of a courtroom trial, everything changes. You begin leaning into your courage. You start making decisions with the energy of someone who already knows the outcome is victory. This isn't about silencing your critic completely. It's about inviting a new voice into the conversation. The voice that cheers, supports, and refuses to let you settle for almost. When you give your future self a microphone, the critic still talks, but it's background noise instead of the headline. So start today. Start small. Tune in. Speak back. And watch as the conversation inside your head begins to shape the reality around you. All right, let's turn the page and talk about the challenge of listening to your future self. Here's where it gets real. You've heard the intro, felt the energy of your future self cheering you on, but now comes the part where you take action. Most people never make that leap. They keep hearing the encouragement, nodding along, and then going back to business as usual. Not you, not today. Your first challenge is simple, but it's powerful. Start tracking your inner dialogue. Pay attention to every time your survival voice whispers, I can't. I'm not ready. Or, I'll fail. Then, instead of buying into it, ask yourself, what would my future self say in this exact moment? Write it down, speak it out loud, even exaggerate if you need to. Shout encouragement at yourself in the mirror if that's what it takes. This is the antidote. You're literally rewiring the conversation in your head. Because here's the truth. Change isn't about shutting down the critic. It's about adding a little louder, more powerful voice to the conversation. And that's your future self in motion. Your future self doesn't judge. They don't criticize. They don't question your potential. They celebrate it. And every time you listen, even for a minute, you're strengthening the voice, giving it more influence, and impressing upon yourself that you can do this. So, this week, pick one situation where you usually hesitate or procrastinate or doubt yourself. Imagine your future self coaching you through it. Replay that internal coaching session multiple times a day if you can. Feel the energy, the belief, the certainty. Let it become your anchor. And by the end of this challenge, you'll notice something remarkable. The critic didn't disappear, but it starts sounding a wee bit smaller, less convincing, background noise, and the voice of a person that you're becoming, the version already cheering you on. You begin to start hearing that voice more clear. You start building more confidence. And that voice starts taking the lead. That's the power of perspective. That's the power of tuning in. And that's the power that's waiting for you if you accept this challenge and do it consistently. You've got this. All right. I want to talk with you now about the antidote or antidote, and that's learning to borrow confidence. I'm going to explain it all. So here's the antidote to all that noise in your head. Borrow confidence from your future self. I mean, just thinking about it for me sounds fun. And so think about it. Your future self has already been where you are. They've already faced the doubts, the rejections, the setbacks. And guess what? They made it through. They're living proof that what you're doing right now is not wasted, not meaningless, not vain. The antidote is remembering that you don't need to generate all the confidence from scratch. You can borrow it. You can step into a decision today as if you already know it worked out. That's not lying to yourself. That's alignment. That's you syncing up with the version of yourself that already exists. So, the next time you feel paralyzed by what ifs, stop. Don't spiral. Instead, say to yourself, if my future self already won, how would they act right now? What choice would they make? How would they walk into this room, send this email, and take this step? That's the antidote. You shift from fear-based hesitation to future-based certainty. And the beautiful part? When you practice this, even in small doses, you stop dragging yourself into decisions that weighed you down with doubt hesitation, fear, just like an anchor. This time, you move lighter. You carry more presence. You act with a kind of quiet authority that doesn't come from ego. It comes from alignment. And this is the difference between playing scared and playing free. One keeps you circling the same problem over and over and over again, while the other one moves you forward with momentum, even when you don't have the full picture yet. So hear this clearly. The antidote to hesitation is not more hustle or more pushing or more confidence hacks. It's simply choosing to borrow confidence from the person you already are becoming. And once you taste that energy, it's addictive. That's why I was giggling at the beginning of this part, because that's how it makes me feel. You won't want to go back. It will be one of the most healthy addictions you can ever have. Try it. I challenge you. Okay. I'm going to take you on another journey. And this is seeing through your future self's eyes. I mean, if you can just only imagine that, what that would be like. So here's a shift most people never stop to consider. Your future self sees everything differently. Right now, you see obstacles, you see stress, you see unanswered questions. But your future self doesn't see those as walls. They see them as stepping stones. From where they stand, what feels like chaos to you is part of the path. The road makes sense when you've already walked it. So think about it. Every decision you've ever made that scared you at that time looks different when you look back today. The job you almost didn't take, the risk you almost didn't make, the relationship you almost didn't start or almost didn't leave. At that time, it felt like the world was ending. But looking back, it's clear. It was just the next step you needed. So your future self sees your present the same way. They see how all of this, like the doubts, the learning curves, the stumbles, is lining you up for something greater. They're not panicked about what you're facing. They're not second guessing you. They already know how it works out. And that's the perspective you get to borrow. Not just the confidence, but the clarity. And when you pause and you ask, how would my future self see this moment? You're pulling yourself out of fear and into vision. You're stepping outside of the noise and looking at your life from a higher altitude, higher level thinking. Because sometimes the problem isn't the problem. It's the angle we're looking from. And the second you switch to your future self's angle, what felt like a dead end starts to look like a doorway. That's not a fantasy. That's perspective. And the more you practice it, the easier it becomes to live from that higher place, right here, right now. Okay, let's turn the page to another fun part. At first, thinking about your future self might feel a bit strange, like imagining a stranger you've never met before. You might even have some sort of picture of them that seems unreal, stronger, calmer, wiser. Someone you hope to become, but aren't sure you'll ever really know. But here's the shift. The more you practice listening for their voice, the less like a stranger they become. And eventually, your future self starts to feel familiar, like an old friend. Think about it. Every time you choose courage instead of hesitation, you're stepping closer to them. Every time you reframe doubt into possibility, you're tuning into their energy. The gap between who you are and who you're becoming shrinks. And when that happens, your future self isn't off in the distance anymore. They're right here, woven into your present. This is where momentum builds. Because once your future self feels closer, you stop waiting for someday. You start acting with their energy right now. You carry yourself differently. You approach decisions differently. You walk into rooms differently. The truth is, your future self isn't a dream. It's a direction. And every choice you make is either pulling them closer or pushing them further away. And when you see it that way, you realize how much power you have in every single moment. So, if you've been wondering, am I even capable of becoming that version of me? The answer is yes. Because you're already brushing shoulders with them every time you choose to rise instead of shrink. You're closer. You're much closer than you think. Okay. You've learned that your future self isn't distant. They're present. Each choice draws them closer. Each decision helps you embody their perspective. You're not waiting to meet them. You're learning to recognize them in yourself today. All right, let's give your future self the mic. Here's the truth. The loudest voice in your head isn't always the truest one. The critic is loud because it's practiced, not because it's right. It's had years and years of running its mouth, years of shaping how you see yourself. But volume doesn't equal authority. When you choose to let your future self speak, you're shifting your authority. You're deciding which voice carries the weight. And when that happens, even small decisions begin to feel different. The critic says, don't even try it. The future self says, this is exactly where you grow. And the critic says, stay small, stay safe. Whereas the future self says, you're ready for bigger rooms. Notice the difference? There is a difference in pattern as well. The critic shrinks. The future self expands. And one pushes you into hesitation, the other into momentum. And that difference matters because momentum is how transformation takes root. It's not one giant leap. It's hundreds of tiny choices where you decide again and again which voice gets the mic. Here's what's beautiful. Over time, this becomes natural. The critic doesn't disappear, okay? But it stops sounding like the final word. It becomes background noise, while your future self becomes the headline. That shift is what changes how you walk into opportunities, how you carry yourself in conversations, how you face moments of uncertainty. Here's a small challenge for you. At least once a day, how about today? Catch the critic mid-sentence and say out loud, or even softly, what your future self would say instead. Just once, just one replacement. That single choice is how the volume begins to change. That's how you get closer to your future self, one baby step at a time. All right, now for an exciting part. Here's the final piece. Your future self isn't just cheering for you. They're training you to cheer for others. Think about it. Every time you choose to rise instead of shrink, you're not just changing your own story. You're giving permission to someone watching you. You may never realize it, but people around you are picking up on the way you carry yourself, the way you keep going, the way you refuse to let the critic have the last word. And just like your future self speaks encouragement into your present self can do that for someone else. That's how momentum multiplies. That's how movements are born. Because here's the truth. Nobody makes it by listening to the critic alone. Every person you admire has had moments where they needed someone else's voice, even just for a second, to drown out the noise. And right now, you have the chance to be that voice. It doesn't take a stage. It doesn't take a microphone. It takes one moment of courage where you look at someone in the eye and say, I see more in you than you're seeing right now. Keep going. You're closer than you think. And when you do that, something incredible happens. You begin to trust your own encouragement more deeply. Because if you can say it for them and mean it, then you can say it for yourself and believe it. That's the loop. Future self cheering for present you? I mean, how much more exciting, can that be? Present you cheering for others? Others reflecting it back when you need it most? The critic doesn't stand a chance against that kind of cycle. You've learned to recognize your critic, to hear your future self, to borrow their confidence, and to see through their eyes. You've practiced giving them the mic, and now you've realized you can become that voice for others too. Challenge accepted? Good. As we close this episode, here's what I want you to hear. Right here at the end, your future self is already alive inside you. They're not waiting years down the line to show up. They're not hiding in some far-off version of your story. They're here, now, cheering, guiding, believing. And every single time you decide to listen, even for a moment, you collapse the distance between who you are and who you're becoming. You carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You live differently. That's not a fantasy. That's alignment. The critic will always whisper, but the critic doesn't get the final word. Not anymore. Because the voice that carries the most power in your life is the one that says, keep going. You're closer than you think. You already know how to rise. So step into that energy. Borrow that confidence. See through the eyes of who you're becoming. Speak their words until they sound like your own. And then turn and give that same voice to someone else, because that's the movement. That's how we repair the world. One person rising, then reaching, then pulling another higher. Your future self is cheering for you. I'm cheering for you. And now it's your turn to carry that torch. Thanks again for joining me on this exciting journey. Next week marks our 26th episode. It's the halfway mark in the season, and I'm super proud of what this show has been able to accomplish in the second part of the season. It's the halfway point. So we'll be diving into an episode called The Matrix of Motivation, Halfway to Mastery. Don't miss this episode. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you. Thanks for going on this journey with me. Thanks for coming back. Have a great week.